Hey, it's me, Oscar from the Coding Universe, and Merry Christmas! Okay, now let's get started with episode 13 of Java Game Development. In this episode I'll be covering creating a selection box. You'll also be able to move the selection box around with the arrow keys on your keyboard, and the mouse as well. So let's get started. To create the transparent selection box on top of the grid, we're going to use a feature of OpenGL called blending. Now you can enable blending by typing gl enable gl blend, and then after that type gl blend func for function, and then type gl source alpha and gl1 minus source alpha. You don't have to know how this works or what it does, just remember this is transparency. Now the way I want to have this set up is that you draw the selection box after you draw the grid, and the selection box you have some variables, two variables, selector X and selector Y, which indicate the position of the selection box grid-wise. And well, I'm going to create a method called drawSelectionBox. And I'm going to execute it after I execute grid.draw. I'm also going to create two new integers, selector X, default that to 0, and selector Y, default that to 0 as well. Okay. Now in the draw selection box menu, I want to draw nothing, so a white box, a transparent white box, if the type at the selection box isn't air. If it is air, I want to draw the block transparently on the grid. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. You'll find out soon enough. So we're going to write if grid.getAt selector X and selector Y dot get type is not block type dot air. So if it isn't air, we're going to draw a white transparent box. So to get rid of any textures, we're going to type in gl bind texture, gl texture 2D, and the second argument is going to be 0. So we want to get rid of any bound textures. The next call is going to be a call to gl color 4f. We're going to set our alpha to 0.5. So we're going to have 50% transparency. The first three arguments are all going to be 1, since this is going to be a white box, but the fourth argument is going to be 0.5. Now I'm going to draw a quadrilateral using the texture, or not the texture, I'm just going to draw a quadrilateral which is going to be transparent. So gl begin, gl quads, and gl end. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to create an integer x and integer y as convenient variables. Integer x is going to be selector x times world.blockSize, and integer y is going to be selector y times world dot block size. There we go. Now the first call in the quadrilateral GL begin GL end clause is going to be a call to GL vertex 2f or 2i. The parameters are going to be x and y. So we're going to draw a quadrilateral clockwise, and we're going to start with the upper left corner, which are the x and y variables. The next call is going to be the upper right corner, so that is going to be x2. We're going to declare that int x2 is x plus world dot block size. Same goes for int y2, that is y plus world dot block size. So GL vertex 2i, x2, and y. Now we're going to draw the bottom right corner, which we're going to accomplish by doing GL vertex 2i, x2, and y2, and GL vertex 2i, x, and y2 for the bottom left corner. Now lastly, we're going to reset the transparency by calling GL color 4f 1, 1, 1, and 1. So it's going to be color white with 100% transparency. Now let's say the grid, selector X, selector Y, at that position at least, is air. Well, we wanted to draw a visual representation of that block in a transparent way. So how I'm going to do that is type in else if grid dot, or just else. So now I'm going to do GL color 4f 1, 1, 1, 0.5. So we're going to draw with 50% transparency, white, at least until we bind the texture, which we're going to do now. I'm going to type in new block, selection, -1 and -1, and bind. So now we can use this texture, the texture of our selected block, to draw a quadrilateral. GL begin, GL quads, and GL end. You know what, I think I might have a better idea. What I'm going to do is go and type in, scrap that, new block, selection, selector X, and selector Y, and then draw. So I'm going to draw that block. Yeah, I hope that works. Let's cross our fingers. And at the end I'm going to reset the color again. Okay, let's try it out. I am now selecting stone, which, oh by the way, the air texture, I've made that just one color because I thought it looked prettier. So I'm now selecting stone, and this is the stone texture. Now I'm going to select dirt. This is the dirt texture. As you can see, it is transparent. It has a bluish tone to it. Now I'm going to select grass, which works, and okay. Okay. Cool. Now, let's see. Okay. Oh, one more thing. If the block is air, we actually don't want to bind the texture. So this, we should add another else if grid.get at selector x selector y dot get type is not block type, or damn, I keep messing things up, is block type air. I am going to do following. Going to do the same as here. No, this doesn't work. If our selection is air, okay, so if our selection is air, we want to have, well, a transparent thing. So we want to have this transparent box. And we can actually just write it in here. Or then we can omit this. There we go. We have this working. That's one thing we have done. Now let's get on to the keyboard. I want to have it so that every time I press a key on my keyboard, the selector box hovers over 1. Same goes for the mouse. If I hover the mouse over something, I want the selector box to be under the mouse. Now let's see how I had done that. Okay. Let's go to the input method. In if mouse clicked, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to say selector x is math.round and selector y is math.round as well. I'm going to replace grid x by selector x because that's basically what it is. Now, if I press my mouse, the selection box appears. But I want to do this even if my mouse isn't clicked. So I'm going to bring this out of the if mouse clicked condition. Let's hope it works. Yeah, it works. Okay, so now we have the selection stuff working. Great. Hooray, it finally worked. Okay. Now let's get on with the keyboard stuff. This is going to be really basic. Some bounds checking is going to be involved, but for the rest I'm just going to check for if a key is left, right, up or down, and if it fits in the bounds I'm going to accept it and modify the selector x or selector y variable. So I'm going to type if keyboard dot get event key is keyboard dot key right. So if we press the right arrow key and keyboard dot get event key state, and we are pressing, or we have just pressed the right key, do if not selector x plus 1 is larger than blocks width minus 2. So if it's in our boundaries, if it's smaller than our block width, I'm going to say selector x is plus 1. Okay, next one. If keyboard, I'm going to copy this. It's easier. Change it to key left. Probably left. Bad joke. Okay, so keyboard selector. If not selector x minus 1 is smaller than 0, so we're not going negative. Selector x minus is 1, or plus is minus 1. Okay, third one. We'll do it for key up. If not selector y minus 1 is smaller than 0, selector y minus is 1. The final one, key down. If not selector y plus 1 is larger than blocks height, or world.blocks height minus 2, selector y plus is 1. If I run this, the mouse interferes with it, so I'm going to have to disable the mouse. I'm going to create a new boolean, private boolean, called mouse enabled, and I'm going to default it to true. So by default our mouse is enabled. And in here I'm going to say if mouse enabled, do all this crap. If not, just skip it. And every time we press a key, we're going to disable the mouse. So copy this. And of course we want to enable the mouse again. So for that, we're going to check if the mouse is in fact pressed, in which case we're going to enable the mouse again. So let's do if mouse enabled or mouse is button down 0. Mouse enabled is true. Let's try this. so I can move around with the arrow keys. Let's check the boundaries. And when I press with my mouse, it enables the mouse again. Pretty cool. The boundaries seem to be working as well. Oh, and another thing I spotted. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Minecraft. Minecraft. And not one of you said this to me. Seriously, were you sitting at your computer and just laughing at me because I said Minecraft? Probably not. But there we go. Now it's all well. Minecraft again. Not again, it was always like this. Okay, I believe that's all I'm going to do today. This was a 24-minute episode, and I apologize for the countless times I messed up. Seriously, I hope I can cut them out, but if I couldn't, please bear with me. I'll put an annotation at the beginning of the video saying, please don't stop prematurely. One of those two pronunciations, I don't know, because I'm going to mess up. Anyway, have a happy Christmas. Till next time.